مشاري والحضور نتوجه للاستوديو التحليلي نتكلم عن المباراة أكثر ونشوف ايش اللي ممكن نواجهه اليوم.
Thank you so much, Banks and Fancy, for that. It was a great introduction, and it's going to be a great tournament, not only this week, but of course next week as well. I'm Jason Kaplan, I'm your host here, and I cannot do this show alone no matter how hard I try, and I feel like I said that a million times, but it is always true. We have Maxman here joining me, and Clarissa on the very end. Gentlemen, it's been a long time since we've seen each other in person. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing absolutely fantastic. It feels really good to be back here. Not only us together on the desk, but also we've got the players here, finally able to play in the offline event. So I'm really hyped to see how things are going to pan out.
Yeah, exciting. I think ultimately there's some different dynamics coming into this tournament as well to figure out how all these teams are going to stack up against one another. It kind of feels me like a World Cup almost here for the World Invitational, so I'm excited for it.
There's so many different things, as you mentioned, so many different reasons why this is extra special. We'll get to that in just a second, actually, as we take a look at the format of the entire tournament. Now, normally, when we're doing these PUBG Mobile events, we have 16 teams. Whenever we have more than 16 teams, it's like, okay, well, we'll have groups, and we'll play out groups. Some groups come in, some groups come out. But you know what here? Ladies and gentlemen, 18 teams are playing at the exact same time. And Max, we know that's going to change the strategies out of every single team.
Yeah, the first time I saw this, I was like, is that a typo? No, we actually have 18 teams in the lobby this time, and that's going to change so many dynamics. We'll have time to talk about that more in depth, but like drop locations, rotations too, how much space is available in the circles. Everything is changing for this event, and hopefully the teams have done their homework to prepare for this.
Teams are going to feel the squeeze on both drops as well as those rotations, which is very important to kind of break down here as the tournament goes on. I think ultimately, though, it's going to test a lot of the teams' potential for adapting to other teams around them here as they continue on the tournament.
And we've kind of been like theorizing what could happen. And typically when you look towards the very late game, if you have a full squad up, you're most likely going to win the match, right? But we're not really expecting many squads to ever have 4 players left alive when we get to the very end.
Yeah.
There's a potential of that. I mean, you could potentially lose people on rotation. You could actually have more infighting in certain compounds, etc. Splits are going to be harder to execute as well because you're just going to have a few more people in the vicinity looking at you as you're even trying to transition to some of those compounds. So it's going to be very exciting to see how they solve the puzzle on the battleground to deal with all of the teams near them.
And also it's very interesting. I had the chance to talk with a few of the players, the coaches too. A lot of them are going to be very stubborn. Like they do not want to give their drop location away.
Surprise.
We are going to have quite a few happening, hopefully. Here.
Well, you know what? That's dangerous, right? It's 3 days. We have 18 matches in total. Like, it's not like you have a lot of time to adapt. It's not like you have a lot of time to make mistakes and make up for it. As we can see here, 3 days of action with 11th, 12th, and 13th. The after party, we could talk a little bit about it. I'm actually super excited for this as well because not only are we changing like the format a bit, how the prize works a bit, but we also have some new teams coming in.
Yeah, we're going to have some big teams like your Bigatron, Red Aliens are going to be coming into the mix. So I'm really happy to see how they're going to be performing in particular. And also the team I'm going to be keeping my eye out for in that event is going to be RAT Sport. That has had some up and downs recently in like when it comes to Arabia. But I think that in this event, it would be great to see how they can perform. So really intrigued to see how it's going to pan out.
It's going to be exciting as well. 5 teams, of course, from this event going to be joining.
And utter chaos, I think is fair to say, when you look at that after-show party. When you look at how things shape up, 6 different maps, different ways to be able to earn some prize pool as well. Exciting.
Well, you can see here the point system. If you guys watched any PUBG Mobile in the last, let's just say like 2.5 years now, it's pretty much exactly the same. 15 points for a chicken dinner, but of course at the very bottom, 1 elimination will equal 1 point. And considering we have now 8 extra players playing every single match, that's 8 extra elimination points that you could see yourself getting.
Yeah, actually, I think the elimination is going to be part of the strategy of a lot of the teams that like to play aggressive. So we'll see how it's going to pan out. But if you want to go aggressive, there's definitely one award you could be aiming for, which is Gunslinger. So it's a little bit different from your top fragger award this time around. Gunslinger is going to be calculating your top damage and also your total eliminations. And then you have another award, which is Eagle Eye, which does the average of your top 2 longest shots in the game registered that gets a knock or an elimination. So 2 new awards are pretty intriguing here.
I like that it takes into account 2 long eliminations as well, because ultimately there are moments where somebody's like firing far into the distance, and they might get themselves a few lucky shots here and there, but it's going to reward some consistency in those kind of long fights with your DMRs, etc.
I'm a little sad to not see like a roadkill specialist or something like that, because we had Salazar, thinking back to PMWI. I mean, he would just give him the money now, right? If you think back to it. You see, of course, all the social medias you guys can check us out on. Make sure you guys keep this in mind as well, because later on I'll tell you some ways you guys can actually earn some prizes at home. But it's going to be an extremely exciting event, and I really can't wait to see what's going to happen. We'll be getting into the teams in just a few minutes here, but let's learn a little bit more about the teams, though, before we do dive into talking about them all.
give it your everything, it ain't no holding back. Time to be the one, best squad, that's a fact. Nobody can stop me when I get in my zone. Take it higher, go from unknown to world known. On another level, competition is in trouble. Putting numbers on the board and it's about to double. We can never fold, we can never break. To be the greatest, we will do whatever it takes. Legendary, feeling like it's my moment. No slowing down now, we can move forward. We got the passion and drive, we stay working. An undeniable team, we on the circle. Bring the fire like a dragon, hunger and the passion. Making history, our energy is everlasting. We're staying on top, team so supreme. Making big moves, the world has never seen. We never fall back, hold our ground where we at. We never fall back, hold our ground where we at.
Man, if this doesn't get you guys hyped for what's going to be coming up in these next 2 weeks, I don't know what will. Fantastic song, and as well as some fantastic teams going to be participating here in these 2 weeks. But guys, let's take a look at our schedule, right? Let's get an idea of what's going to be happening today, what maps we'll be going to, and of course, in what order. And man, I'm happy to not see us ending up on Sandhawk.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say it before anyone else does.
Just had to get rid of it right away. I'm sad we're not seeing Vikendi at all. But hey, the after party, maybe
You'll get a little bit.
We'll get a little snippet of it, but you know it's going to be interesting. 3 Erangels are going to be also having your 2 Miramars, 1 Sanhok. Unfortunately for Enigma Galaxy and TJB, not as much shield off they can do, but they can try and get a few points here and there.
I like that Erangel's the full focus.
All right, we're going to head over to James Jaye, the director of PUBG Mobile Esports, here on the stage.
I would like to say personally how incredible it is to talk to you all in person. It's too far long, as we all know. I'm here today to share the...
They're getting a lot of wins, but they're not necessarily high elim games coming in. And I think if you're able to kind of control the circles, even flex out and push people out of circles as well and hold them as a barrier, I think that's a good style to come into this kind of tournament in, where you have to be assessing more threats than usual, given the 16 to 18 team lobby that we're going to see here.
Okay, well, I mean, a team I want to bring up that I'm surprised you guys haven't mentioned yet. I'm not sure which one of you chose. Enigma Galaxy representing Arabia. This team, 3rd place at PMGC. Really surprised us. They were so consistent. They've been really consistent this year, I think, having the most chicken dinners in a PMPL across the world. This team is amazing, and they should be looked at as one of the favorites.
Yeah, and in a very similar grain to Stalwart, they are a team that has stuck together for, I think, almost 700 days now. The roster has stuck together, never changed, which is very impressive to see. And also, they're playing locally, right? They are a local team. They won PMPL Arabia in the spring season. A little bit too close on the fall season, unfortunately. But having fans present for this offline event, it doesn't happen too often for PUBG Mobile. We'll see if the offline buff is going to really work out for them.
The region has strong teams, for sure. Enigma Galaxy has to be one of them. I think one thing that goes against them a little bit is that we only have 1 Sandhawk per day. They are decent there. They're playing the averages, is fair to say, when it comes to a battleground like Sandhawk. But beyond that as well, we've seen good compound control from them when we've been kind of covering them. They've continued that throughout the months. So impressive stuff from them to continue on into this tournament.
So I want to bring up a question to you guys. I know you have more teams you want to talk about, but I feel like a general consensus I've seen from a lot of these teams going into this event was they did either really, really bad in the league stage, and then they did well in the finals, well in the league stage, and they did well in the finals. They carried it over. A lot of the teams struggled when it came to those regional playoffs. Teams just weren't really able to live up to what they did. Event at a global scale like this, I'm kind of worried for those teams.
Yeah, I think that's the lack of national experience that a lot of these teams have, unfortunately, heading into this. So this first day is going to be rough for some of these squads, right? They're going to have to deal with it the hard way. It's going to be like trial and error for a lot of these guys, seeing how the drop goes, how the rotation goes. And I think that after this first day, after the first game of each map, things will start to settle in a little bit more, but it is a lot of unknown heading into now.
It's definitely a feel-out day, right?
Yeah.
That's fair to say. We have seen these guys have a few test games here and there to try and feel out the drops, as you're saying. But even as we've studied these teams' drops, where they're going, sometimes in their own regions, they've had their preferred drop, but then had to move away. Here, we're going to see some of that again. We're going to see teams like, I mean, Regnam, I can't even do it.
Gaming.
I can't hear myself. Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, we can.
Apparently, yeah. I mean, for example, their Yasnaya split, as well as Yasnaya. You have to tighten that up in this kind of lobby here because there's more threats actually looming on the edges of your drop. So even from the word go in these games, you got to be very, very careful about how you're feeling at the other teams.
I mean, for teams who haven't played on a national level, like you think of Vivo Key, and I know we talked about this actually quite a bit before the event, they've not really played a LAN. They've not really played a global event. I mean, you're kind of hitting two big things all in one. Like, realistically, what can you expect from a team like this? I mean, obviously, Brazil has high hopes for him.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it's all about the preparation going into the event, your scrims. And I also know that a lot of teams have picked up a coach pretty much last minute, but that can have a pretty drastic impact on your team and how you approach and visualize the game, right? I think that can have a pretty big impact. Like talking about Vivo Keyed, they qualified above teams like Influence Rage, Alpha 7, which is even Loops, which is very, very impressive. So I've had the chance to cast them a little bit over in the Western tournaments and like Americas. I think they have the chops to do well on an international event. Unfortunately, we'll have to see how it's going to go because we've never seen it before, but I think there's a chance that Vivo Keyed could be like a dark horse. Heading into this.
Okay. Actually, Clarus, do you have a dark horse that you're looking at?
I mean, it's kind of up and down. I guess I would have to pick a team like Morph. They come from a great region. I did expect other teams to qualify from that region, like RRQ, for example. But they showed that they're able to hang with the top teams.
Getting accustomed to lobbies, you don't have time. And we have actually seen, like you mentioned before, a lot of coaches come in, a lot of really well-known coaches, some maybe on Nova X Quest F, the ones who have been able to take home PMWC. Like, how much can a coach realistically offer you when you only had, I guess, maybe a little bit of lead up into the event, but you only have 3 days of play? It's really hard to make drastic changes to how the lobbies play out.
I mean, in the background, teams in the mentality, because a lot of the coaches, how it works out, then now the teams adapt to it, and I think just is really good for the mental state. Like, they seem more prepared.
We're going to be getting into our first match shortly here, but I want to give a shout out here to Sony. IV created in collaboration with professional esports players, so you know it's going to be partner here of PUBG Mobile. Things off this event, high fives going out, at least air high fives as well here. But it's time to bring in our kicks off here. We got John, Allen, and Blank joining me here on the desk. Gentlemen, this is going to be crazy. It's going to be exciting. Maybe you have some teams you want to point out. I'll leave the floor open to you.
Thank you. We're going to be getting into this first game. Blank, there's a lot of teams here with a lot on the line.
There is, yeah, and Jason was asking, you know, is there any other teams that maybe we're looking at? I think there's one team that maybe the guys on the desk haven't mentioned yet that I'd love to, and that is actually Vampire Esports. This team currently looks extremely good as a team overall. You know, they've been through a lot of different iterations of Victim Sovers at the start of the year into Victim 360. 5, then Ion Esports in their qualifier for the Spring 22 finals, and now finally coming through, you know, now as Vampire Esports. So, oh no, they were Power Triple 8 right at the beginning. Sorry, that's Morph GG I'm talking about. But they've gone through a lot of iterations. They have now Corpai on the team, who used to be on Power Triple 8 when they had some of their better games. He's coaching, so they talk about coaching on the desk as well. This could be a great position for them.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be looking